Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to TechGig webinar, our endeavor to empower techies. Today's session is second in the Advanced Java series, and topic for today is Productive Language Enhancements for Developers. Our guest speaker for today is Mr. Hemant Kumar Dugar, Training Consultant at Login to Java. Hemant is a motivated achiever with more than 15 years of significant and progressive experience in IT. He is a PMP certified professional having a sound base for core concepts in managing projects and processes at various knowledge areas. Hemant is also having an extensive knowledge of managing projects using various PM methodologies. Most of the projects he worked were in Java, J2EE, and related technology. Gentlemen, this presentation will continue for next 45 minutes, and we will take your questions after the presentation. In the meanwhile, you can post your queries through the chat pane available in the webinar software. Without further ado, I introduce you to our guest speaker, Mr. Hemant.
Yeah, hi everyone. This is Hemant, and a very happy New Year to all of you. So, is my screen and voice is okay?
Yeah, we can see your screen and your voice is very much audible. Please go ahead.
Okay, right. Thank you. Our today's session is basically on productive language enhancements in Java 7, and this is basically focused for the Java developers. Now, this Java 7 release is basically the first major release by Oracle for the Java 2 SE, Java SE, basically. Although our today's session is focused for Java language enhancements for developer, let's have a quick look at most of the new features that have been introduced in Java 7. Language enhancements. If we talk about core of Java, then there is a new method to close the URL class loader, and there are some updates for the concurrency and the collections. There is a new JVM instruction that simplifies the implementation of dynamically typed programming languages on the JVM. Dynamically typed programming languages like JPython, or you can say basically JRuby, Groovy, etc. Then there is enhancement in internationalization, support for Unicode 6.0, and also it can accommodate new currencies. There are lots of new things coming up in Java IO and Java Net. The support for a stream control transmission protocol and socket direct protocol. And it also uses supporting the IPv6 stack of Windows Vista. More new IO APIs has been introduced, and there is a very good file system provider in NIO 2 is also introduced with a implementation for zip and jar archives. So it also provides a feature of developing custom file system provider. So this is a very new and interesting thing. Then there are some changes in security also. A new native provider has been added that provides several ECC based algorithms, and there are very good enhancements in JDBC. JDBC 4.1 is introduced. Basically, there is a new feature in Java language. Here we will see in detail with examples in the forthcoming slides, that is try with resources statements. This is basically to automatically close resources. So JDBC 4.0 now supports connections, result sets, statements, all closing automatically. Apart from that, JDBC has also introduced ROSET 1.1. That is in ROSET 1.1, the introduction to the ROSET factory interface and the ROSET provider class also, which enables you to create all types of ROSET supported by your JDBC driver. There are new client enhancements or new things coming on the clients. There are basically renderer changes in pipeline of Java 2D. Then some 6U10 graphics features API. Nimbus look and feel, there is nothing much change in Nimbus look and feel, but it has been shifted from one package to another package in Swing. A new component J layer has been introduced. The J layer class is actually a flexible and powerful decorator for Swing components now. It enables you to draw on components and respond to component event without modifying the underlying component directly. So this is a very good, interesting component in Swing. Then there is a new sound synthesizer also. There are some changes in XML stack and enhanced management beans. Now if we look at language enhancements, a set of small language changes intended to simplify common day-to-day programming. So overall it affects the productivity of the developer if we go with these new enhanced programming skills. Strings in switch statements, then try with resources statements, improved type interface for generic instance creation, better integral literals, and improved in exception handlings. We will see a few examples and code examples also on all these language enhancements. Apart from that, there are enhancements in concurrency and collection updates also. A lightweight, this is a new framework, fork and join framework. This has been introduced, and flexible and reusable synchronization barriers and also transfer queues are introduced. Binary integral literals. With Java 7, you can now create numerical literals using binary notation with prefix 0b. So this is a binary literal with value 32. So this has been introduced in Java 7. Now numeric literals, basically they are eye strainers. I'm sure you would start counting the zeros like me if you have been given a number with say 10 zeros or 7 zeros or even more zeros. It's quite error prone and cumbersome to identify the literal. If it's a million or a billion, or if you can say if we count in our Indian language, so maybe crores or lakhs. Now not anymore in Java 7 has introduced basically underscore in identifying the places for literals. Now you can easily identify 10 crore, 10 lakh, 100 crore. So you can use these underscores in between your literals. So it is better to understand and also less error prone than earlier. Look at this code. Can you think of what the output will be? Just see, all these things are same. If you say this is 1 million, then this is 10 lakh. Both values are same, and this is again. So if you run this particular code, you will get both the conditions true. Now consecutive underscore is legal. Even you can place more than one underscores. Underscore can be included in other numeric types also, like double, long, even hex or byte. Underscore can be included after the decimal point also. It is illegal to start a literal with underscore. This is not allowed. It is illegal to start a literal with underscore. Even it is also illegal to end a literal with underscore. And it is also illegal to have a underscore just after the decimal point. So these are the few guidelines when you use underscored literals. Strings in switch. Before Java 7, switch can only be used on char, byte, short, int, character, byte, short, integer wrapper classes or enum type. Java 7 adds strings, making the switch instruction much friendlier. The Java compiler generates generally more efficient bytecode from the switch statements that use string objects than from the chained if-else statements that you might be using in earlier versions. So it is better to program, better to code, and even it is efficient while the program gets executed because it generates more efficient bytecodes. Just look at this example. This is what developer used to before Java 7. This is a simple method that converts word to digit. Suppose you pass on a string over here, say 1, ONE1. So this condition holds true and it will return this numeric digit 1. So there is a list of if, around 10 ifs are there. So this is till Java 7, till Java 6. Now in Java 7, the code can be like this. You can use switch. Case 1, case 2, case 3, case 4. Each case will assign a value to the return value, and then this return value will return the digit converted into numeric. Now corrections. The interface transfer queue has been added. It is basically a refinement of blocking queue interface in which producer can wait for consumer to receive elements. One implementation of new interface is also given, that is linked transfer queue. This is basically a class. This queue orders elements with respect to any given producer. The head of the queue is the elements that has been on the queue for the longest time for some producer, and the tail of the queue is basically the element that is with the shortest time for some producer. So this is a new class in corrections, linked transfer queue. Now this is very interesting. The fork and join that has been introduced in Java 7. The fork join breaks the task at hand into mini task until the mini task is simple enough that can be solved without further breakups. Implement of a work stealing algorithm. In that, idle workers steal the work from those workers who are busy. Okay, let me explain in some better way. Say there are 4 processors on a system. Now, if you have many tasks running simultaneously in Java application and you are using fork and join framework, you can distribute your task around processors, and each processor will be busy of doing their task. But it can happen that this processor get idle after some time, but these 3 processors are busy. So this particular mechanism, when this task gets finished, will steal a task from here for this processor. So ideally, no CPU will be idle with this mechanism. The core classes supporting the fork join mechanism are fork join pool and fork join task. The fork join pool is basically a specialized implementation of executor service. To write an instance of fork join pool by providing the target parallelism level, the number of processors are shown below. So even before that, if you want to know a number of processors in your CPU, you can get it from the runtime class, runtime.get runtime.available processors. So you will get available processors, and then use this parameter in the fork join pool to get your pool ready for all the processors. So this is so simple. Now fork join task. There are 2 implementations for this class out of the box, that is recursive action and recursive task. The only difference between these 2 classes is that the former one does not return a value, while the latter returns the object of specific type, that is recursive task. So this is again a simple example for creating your task. You can create your task class, extends the recursive action or the recursive task, and you have to override the compute method and provide your task details over here that will be executed on a particular processor scheduled by the pool. Now provide this fork join task to the executor by calling invoke method. This is so simple, pool.invoke task. So this is a new framework, fork and join, and it is very interesting and very useful. Now type inference for generic creation. Earlier when using generics, you had to specify the type twice. Twice means once at here and then at here. This is in till Java 6. If we see some complex declaration, say map having key as a string and then another map as a key with string and double, string as a key and double as a value. So again, if you need to create an object for this hash map, you have to specify these things for generic declaration. In Java 7, you just use diamond operator without the type. So these two statements can be written like this in Java 7. You need not specify the type over here. If the compiler can infer the type argument from the context, it does all the work for you. Although you can always use new linked list instead of this. Instead of this, you can use this without a diamond. But this results in unchecked conversion warning. So it's better. Now, for your own class, for your own generic class, if you want to create an instance of your own generic class, you should you must be calling till Java 6. You must be calling like new my class integer, and this is the parameter that you need to send to the constructor. So instantiation of the class my class, which is valid in Java 7 and prior release, this was, and your class may be similar to this, where this is your class, this is your constructor, and then the remaining thing of the class. However, the compiler in Java SE7 can infer the actual type parameters of the generic class being instantiated if you use the diamond operator. So this is allowed for your own classes also. You can use it like this while creating the instance of your own generic class. I think almost all the Java programmer or developer come across this kind of situation, where there are many exceptions thrown by a block of code or maybe a function where you give a series of catches, catching the endless number of exceptions one after the other in a catch block looks very cluttered. And yeah, I have seen code that catches dozens of exceptions too. This is actually incredible, inefficient, time consuming, and error prone. So Java 7 has brought in a new language change to address this ugly duckling. See, catching multiple exception types in one catch. You can actually catch multiple exceptions, handling more than one type of exception. Each exception type is separated by a vertical bar. If a catch block handles more than one exception type, then the catch parameter is implicitly final. I mean to say that this EX will be implicitly final. You cannot change here the EX object. Smaller and superior bytecode generator. Again, this is basically enhancement, performance enhancement, or better coding also. Smaller and superior bytecode generated for the compiler. And this is very smaller code for the developer to write instead of writing chains of exception in catch. Now look at this code. See, we have our own exception. First exception extends exception. Then we have another exception, second exception. And this is, say, a method that is throwing the exceptions. So before Java 7, this is a code that normally we see in our day-to-day Java coding. So we throw exception. This is basically base class, and there are several conditions or code where you can throw this first exception, second exception. You can catch some exception other than these and throw the exception, and even these exceptions also. So looking at the code, can you specify exact exception type in throws clause? Just think over it. Can you specify exact exception type in this code. You cannot, because you are having exception in your code throwing through this method. So throws cannot have subclass. It should have basically the base class. This is still Java 6. Now in Java 7 you can specify specific exception types. Though the exception parameter of the catch clause E is type of exception, the compiler can determine that it is an instance of either first exception or second exception. So you can specify in Java 7 like this: throws first exception, second exception, even if your code is throwing exception. See another example. It is throwing two exceptions, IO exception and SQL exception. This particular code can throw these two type of exceptions. So, but you are using a catch exception E. So handling more than one type of exception, Java 7 compiler can determine that the exception thrown by the statement throw E must have come from the try block, and the only exception thrown by the try block can either be IO exception or the SQL exception. The compiler can determine the E is an instance either IO exception or SQL exception. So compiler is now smart enough to basically find the instance of the exception that are put in the throws clause. Even if we go in a bit detail, in Java 7 the compiler verifies that the type of rethrown exception meets some of the conditions, like if you can say the try block is able to throw it, this particular portion must be able to throw these two type of exception. There are no other preceding catch block that can handle it. There shouldn't be any other catch block to handle these. It is a subtype of or the super type of one of the catch clause exception parameter. Either it is a subclass or a super class that is thrown from here for IO exception or SQL exception in this particular code example. Okay. Resource manager. This is another very beautiful feature that has came into the Java 7. Prior to Java 7, resources such as connections, files, input-output streams, even you can say your socket connections, etc. should be closed manually by the developer. A simple example code, just go through it. You must have come across in your day-to-day programming this type of coding practice, where you must have opened some of the resources and then catch, and you must have given these things in finally block. For each clause you must have put a try, whether it is a connection or statement or basically file output stream or some input stream. Now with Java 7, particularly this part is no more required. Let's see. However, Java 7 has introduced another cool feature. To manage the resources automatically, any resource that implement java.lang.autoclosable interface can be a candidate for automatic resource management. Automatic resource management. A new interface has been introduced. For IO, the autoclosable is a parent of java.io.closable. interface, and it just has one method, that is close, that would be called by the JVM automatically when the controls come out of the try block. Called by JVM automatically when the control comes out of the try block. This is so simple. Try resources to be cleaned. Your code to work on resources, you need not to provide the close. Let's see example code. Can handle another beauty, can handle multiple resources. The close method of resources are called in the opposite order of their creation. See, let's see this example first. This is file output stream, and then this is data output stream. The same example with Java 7 that we have just saw. We just saw. So we are opening two streams over here. We are doing our task over here. You can handle the exceptions over here, but need not to specify closing for each of the resource that you have opened within the try. And you can, with this simply putting the semicolon, you can specify multiple resources in a single try. This is try with resources statement. Now, called in the opposite order. This means this will get closed first and then this will be closed. Any catch or finally block is run after the resources declared have been closed. So if you are having any catch or finally statement over here, you must be confident that your resources are already closed. So this is a very new and impressive and very useful thing that Java has introduced, and this will reduce a lot of code in your programming and easy many of the error-prone things that you will be coding otherwise. You can retrieve these suppressed exceptions. So actually it suppresses the exception thrown by this execution, but you can always get those suppressed exception in your caller method using throwable.getSuppressed method from the exception thrown by this try block. So you have this option with you to get those suppressed exceptions. So this is actually a try with resources statement. So the important thing here is two interfaces that has been introduced. The auto closable interface, and another one is for IO, the closable interface. So not much changes in language in Java 7, the day-to-day programming language, but whatever changes that came in Java 7 are basically, you can say, making the Java more faster than ever, better bytecode, better performance, more smarter, and more easier for developer. So let's have a question answer round.
Questions are already shared with you.
Okay, in question, let me see. what are the disadvantages of using generics? The major disadvantage, this question is from Sohail Somani. So the major disadvantage that you can say for generic is basically difficulty in coding and understanding. So it's not very developer friendly. But once you practice it, I think it's the best way of doing coding. If you are using some of the collections with generics, you must have realized this. Who will take care of fork and join pool management by system, or we have to take care while implementation? For fork and join pool, you need not to do any programming for managing them. This is through, you can say, the stealing algorithm automatically. What is the difference between database connection pool and fork join? Nilay Kandhar. The very simple difference you can say is database connection pool is to maintain the connections, whereas fork join is basically for maintaining the threads and distributing the work among the multiple processor, because distributing is of work or task along the processor is was a big pain for developers till Java 6. So in Java 7, this is basically much easier to distribute the task among the processor, and basically that will be managed by fork join pool automatically. And there is a question from Chintan Shah. In the example showing the throws clause with the specific exceptions, if there is a first exception in the try block, that will happen. What will happen? Will the exception will be handled by the catch exception block, or will it be thrown by the method of the caller? Just a minute. Definitely it will be handled by the catch exception, but if you are throwing it back through the catch exception, you can throw it specifically for the first exception. Chintan. Amar Barak, basically he has asked that, Hemant, please do explain about IONet features, SCTP and SDP of Java. Actually, what I can say is this was actually not part of this session, but still I will try to explain in a small sentence. SCTP is basically, you can say it's in computer networking. The stream SCTP full form is the Stream Control Transmission Protocol, and is a transport layer protocol serving in a similar role as similar to the TCP or the UDP, and it gives the benefit of the both of the words. It provides some of the same services features, like it is message oriented similar to the UDP, and also it ensures the reliability and sequencing of the transport TCP messaging. So this is basically a better option for reliable and message oriented communication. And in SDP, it is basically a socket direct protocol, I suppose, socket direct protocol. how to explain it? It's very simple to understand that it actually provides, if you have heard about remote direct memory access in the TCP protocol. You can say the goal is to do this in a manner which is transparent to the application. Basically, it uses streams to invoke or use memory somewhere on the server side directly, without directly or very transparently. Is there any difference relationship between auto closable and closable? This is by Gaurav Deshpande. Auto closable is basically in Lang, Java Lang. This is an interface, and closable actually extends the auto closable interface, and closable is in java.io. So similarly, for the network, you can have a similar sort of interface extending auto closable, and if you are implementing JDBC, you can again extend the auto closable interface and create your JDBC closable. So JDBC 4.1 will now have those sort of interfaces and implementation classes that will close connections, statements, and all this automatically. Then Amar Barik again, is it possible to run JDK 7 compiled code in JRE 6? Although I haven't tried, but I suppose it's not possible because the bytecode generation has been changed. The way the bytecode is generated and some new bytecode enhancements has been introduced in JDK 7. Ratan Tripathi. If we wish to use less or more processor count than actually available in system with fork and join. I haven't tried it, and I haven't gone in detail of the methods available, but I suppose this is an automatically managed pool. So maybe in future there might be some control. Then Suresh, you said instead of multiple if cases, if we use switch case, what's new in that? Before Java 7 we have switch case now. Switch case with Java 7 now allows strings. Before Java 7 it only allows int, char, etc. So in Java 7 now you can switch on strings. Before Java 7 it was not allowed. It was not available actually. Chaitanya, what if I have to perform different corrective actions for different exception thrown? I guess the Java 7 feature will not help. Actually, the throwing of multiple exceptions or handling of multiple exception only works in the same hierarchy. Somehow those exceptions should be related in either super or subclass form. Another question is, what if our application using fork join framework on uniprocessor platform, just a minute, There are a lot of questions. I have a question. When catch will handle multiple exceptions, then how would we identify which exception has been caught? I think there were some method mentioned over there to get those suppressed exceptions. There are some questions that are unrelated to this session, so I am not taking those questions. What if our application, this is from Saurabh Gupta, what if our application using fork join framework on uniprocessor platform, performance degradation? On a uniprocessor platform, if we are using fork join or if we are not using fork join, I think there will not be any difference as far as performance is related, because otherwise also on a uniprocessor the task has to be performed in sequence, and with fork join also it will be performed in sequence, the sequence of tasks that is maintained in the queue. So I think I have done with most of the questions. Is it possible to run this? I have already. So I think seems that we have done.
There are a few more questions. If you can expand that window, you'll find other questions.
Let me see. Can you give me the real world scenario for fork and join feature? Basically, a real world scenario. Okay. What you can do is, suppose you have to handle multiple network streams coming from different sources and distributing it to many clients. Say there are 4 or 5 input streams and you are distributing them to 500 clients. So there must be a lot of threads working simultaneously. Definitely you should go for fork and join in such kind of situation. If you do it without fork and join, I think you have to manage the processor and other resources within your program manually, and you will be basically struggling with processor management. With fork and join, that will be automatically through the stealing algorithm. Then do you have any stats on the improvement in size and performance using Java 7? I think I haven't seen or I haven't Googled it to find. So I think you must get some figures on net. I actually haven't completed any of the performance testing because there are a lot of areas in Java where the performance affect. Transfer queue and linked transfer queue. Please do explain about. Transfer queue is basically interface, and linked transfer queue is its implementation. in the catch block with syntax catch expression 1, expression 2, what is the order of it? Do we need to keep the more generalized exception at the end? No. You can keep exception in any order, I suppose. What if our application, this is from Saurabh, if our application, sorry, this has been done already. From Chaitanya, what if I have to perform different corrective actions for different exceptions thrown? I guess the Java 7 feature will not help. Different corrective action, if you want to perform different corrective action on different exceptions, then you need to catch them separately and provide your code. But if you just want to log it, you can log and rethrow it. That where at this situation Java 7 will help. Is it always better to use switch cases instead of if clause? Tausif, from Tausif. Definitely it's always better to use switch case if the problem area basically can be easily molded to switch case. You should go for switch case because the better bytecode gets generated with better performance always. You should avoid if. Use switch. Amar, I am not actually understanding the question. You have written if Java 7 allows string and object as case, then is it possible to use any objects as a case? Actually, there is a method toString overridden in always overridden because it's available in object class. If you have overridden that method, or even if you have not overridden that method, the toString gets called on object, and there won't be, I suppose there won't be any error, and you can use that particular statement in switch case, but it will not help in your different switch cases, in different cases. And if you are cases supporting those things, then it's fine. In binary literal, int n is equal to 0, b, 1, 2, 3, 4, then how it will be interpreted? I suppose the compiler should give some error. And even if you are using Eclipse or NetBeans, they will show you red underlined. Catch block can handle multiple exceptions if we specify only word exception or throwable instead of writing a particular exception class. Is it right? Actually, exception and throwable is the root class where exception extends it. So they are the basically root classes of all the exceptions. You can always catch exceptions in these, but If you want to handle a different exception in a different manner, or if you want to know about the cause exception, which causes the exception, so it's always better to handle different exceptions, because handling of exceptions may be different for different exceptions. Gaurav, as we need to have compile time constants for the cases in switch, can the string objects instead of literals or any other objects be used directly? This is what, Gaurav, what I understand is you want to put string objects in the case. So I don't think it will be allowed. Surely it will not be allowed. It will not compile.
We have taken most of the questions, so now we can conclude the session.
Okay. So I suppose we have taken most of the questions, and this is I think there were some really good questions over here. So thanks everyone. Yeah, have a nice day.
Thanks, Mr. Hemant, for your informative session on productive language enhancements for developers. It was indeed an enlightening session. I would also like to thank our participants for making this webinar a huge success. The recording of this webinar will be available on techgeek.com by tomorrow. Gentlemen, this January, TechGeek is conducting a webinar series on IP telephony and VoIP. The first session in this series is happening today, 5 p.m. Topic for today's session is Deep Packet Inspection to tackle insatiable demand for additional bandwidth. We'll be having Mr. Murli, Product Manager at HCL Technologies, as our guest speaker today. So see you all today at 5 p.m. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.